Really excited to have Youna Angevin Castro on the Sage podcast today. Youna, welcome, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Mel. Thanks for having me. So I am a women's health coach, working predominantly with women in their 40s and beyond. And the work that I do is mostly to support women through their journey through perimenopause and into menopause. And my particular interest is in helping women get better sleep, basically. A lot of women present with sleep issues, and that's usually the first sign that things are going a bit wonky. And so I try and help them achieve better sleep so they feel better, so they can navigate all the other stuff that's happening with a little bit of a clearer head, I guess.
Yeah, sleep's one of those really tricky areas, isn't it? It's like you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't get back to sleep. Suddenly you feel very emotional about things. Everything feels harder. You get hungry, you get cravings. You're dragging yourself through the day. You can tell I've experienced that. Is that the kind of thing that comes up? And what else do you see with sleep?
Yeah, I mean, that's often the problem. What happens, obviously, hormones are changing, and all of that has an impact on people's ability to fall asleep, stay asleep, go back to sleep when they wake up. And I guess it's as much about addressing those symptoms as it is about addressing people's mindset around sleep. It's very easy to try and get someone to reestablish a routine, but if they're lying awake worrying about it, it's kind of counterproductive. And the problem with not sleeping is that often, because you are worried about it, you don't get back to sleep, and then it continues, make bad decisions during the day, the following day, which then makes it even harder to get sleep the next day. And it just, it's a slippery slope, unfortunately. Yeah, so my role is to try and help people kind of work out what's going on during the day so that they can try and improve their sleep at night. Some things are out of people's control, obviously, but there are still lots of things that people can do to try and support better sleep without having to resort to sleeping tablets or medications or things like that.
And that's an important point, because some people don't want to take medication or sleeping tablets, and they're going, what can I do? So I guess my question to you is, how do you set yourself up for a good night's sleep?
So I always say that preparing for a good night's sleep starts in the morning, first thing in the morning. It's a day-long preparation. That's not to say it should be onerous or a difficult task, but if you start the day on the right foot, then hopefully that sets up a platform for you to have a good night's rest later that night. So for me, it's very much about I start the day with I try to get outside. I make myself a cup of tea and try and get a bit of sunlight as soon as I can in the morning. So that might be sitting out on the deck if the weather's nice and having a cup of tea in natural light, or getting out with the dog, taking the dog for a walk, which kills two birds with one stone, right? You get your daily exercise, and you get that natural light, which is a really important cue for your brain to realize it is time to be awake, to increase your energy levels and your awareness and alertness throughout the day. And that just sets the scene for the rest of the day. It's not, a cure-all, but it's certainly a good habit to start. So, and then throughout the day, I'm very mindful of the impact of things like caffeine and sugar and those types of things on my ability to sleep. So I don't drink coffee anymore. I used to when I was a lot younger, but I don't drink coffee, or very, very rarely if I do, and certainly not after lunch. So if I do have a coffee, it'll be a morning one. I mostly drink teas, herbal teas if I can, late in the afternoon, to try and avoid the impacts of stimulants on my sleep. And the biggest factor that I find impacts me personally in terms of my ability to sleep well and any kind of nighttime menopause symptoms is really managing stress. And that's a big one for a lot of women. A lot of women will experience menopause symptoms, and a lot of it boils down to managing the stress. And it's hard at our age, right? We're often sandwiched between teenagers or kids and aging parents, and often working, at a point in our careers where work is possibly, carrying a lot more responsibilities. So, it's not as easy to say stop stressing, but if you can take some proactive measures to keep those stress levels in check, I find that I'm more likely to not make poor decisions. I won't drink that glass of wine before bedtime because I'm feeling better about myself, or I won't resort to, chomping on a bag of jelly snakes in the afternoon because I've set myself up for the day, which means I'm more likely to stay asleep, or if I do wake up, I'm more likely to go back to sleep. So I'm not sitting there ruminating and thinking about things at 3 a.m. in the morning, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. So,
and it's such an important point that you make about starting early in the day and being aware of the impact of what you do. And you mentioned caffeine and stress. And I know through my own experimenting that those two things have been critical for me, because I've always been prone to anxiety in my life. And what happens when you have coffee? Stress, it all ramps up, doesn't it? And then not just are you awake ruminating, but you also have something to ruminate about, because your mind is, you've created these stresses for yourself as well. So there's those aspects that you say that are really important. 100%.
Yeah. It's easier said than done sometimes, right? And it can be a slippery slope. You have one poor night of sleep and then you do tend to make those bad decisions during the day. So I guess it's a case of, waking up every morning and resetting, and hoping that what you do throughout the day will actually have a positive impact on your sleep late that night. And alcohol's a big one. I know a lot of people resort to alcohol. The stress gets to you. It's your release at the end of the day. It's a reward for getting through the day a lot of the time. But you might find it very easy to get to sleep, but those 3 a.m. wake up calls, and when you are prone to anxiety, the thoughts that go through your head after a few glasses of wine at 3 a.m. in the morning, it's not doing you any favors. So, I'm not suggesting that people have to give up altogether, but certainly cutting back on alcohol use and relying on a glass of wine to get to bed and relax and go to sleep. Its long-term effects aren't great on you. So.
Yeah, I think something that you're kind of touching on is that body awareness of knowing that if I do this, then I get that. It's not just a matter of I'll stop doing this or I'll change that. I think when you have that deeper awareness of if I do this, I'm going to break out into a sweat in the middle of the night. I know that for me, alcohol does that. And perhaps it's also the part of the thing that makes it easier to change is knowing that there is a consequence, positive or negative, for what you do during the day.
Yeah, it's true. And it takes a while sometimes to join those dots to realize that that's what's happening. And for a lot of women, they may not even be registering that they're in perimenopause, that there is a change in the way, they may have spent, their 20s and 30s enjoying, their wine with their dinner or doing all of these things, and suddenly there's a change in it, and that may not even register that it's their hormones are shifting and that's what's causing it. So that's why I'm saying a lot of the time women will start complaining, I can't sleep, and it's just not clicking that maybe it's perimenopause that they're experiencing, and that all those little things that the wonky knee, the sore knee, that they've been experiencing that they never had before, or the nighttime awakenings, the cravings for certain things, the anxiety, all of those things are part of a big puzzle, a bigger picture that they need to piece together. And I guess as coaches, we try and help people to put that puzzle together and try and work out, you know, what things are they prepared to do to achieve better outcomes for themselves during that stage of life. I guess part of it's an education piece, you know, knowledge is power, but it's also about women, I guess, being in control of their own decision making and choosing the journey that they want to take during that time of their lives.
Going in with your eyes wide open and also accepting what's happening to you.
Yeah. And knowing that it's not all doom and gloom. You don't have to give up everything, and that it can be an empowering time to navigate. So
it's an opportunity to finally get round to changing a few things that you've been thinking about for a long time and haven't gotten around to doing. Your body's saying, knock, knock, hello, now's the time.
That's it. And I think also acknowledging that that you have the power to choose what is happening to you, I think is an important thing to acknowledge as well.
It's not just happening to you, you have some control over that.
Yeah, you know, because it can feel like it's a bit out of control, you know, suddenly, you know, hair sprouting in places you never anticipated, or that you know, I mean, my own experience in terms of perimenopause is I've been lucky enough. I haven't had you know, devastating experiences with hot flushes or night sweats or that type of thing. But my first sign that I was in perimenopause was a complete loss of libido. You know, my sex life went out the window in the sense that it was devastating in terms of my relationship and how I related to my partner, and you know, caused a lot of stress and anxiety around that. Knowing that I was in perimenopause after I'd done my research, and knowing that there were things that I could do to improve those outcomes was quite empowering. It's like, okay, I'm not doomed for a life of, you know, separate beds for the next 40 years, that there are things that I can do. There are changes I can make in my own lifestyle and the way I approach things, my mindset, that can actually improve those outcomes. And when you don't realize what's going on, I guess, at a physiological level, you can start to think that it's you, or that, you know, there are cracks in the relationship, or that, you know, something else is going on. So understanding that these are things that happen to women in perimenopause, and knowing that there is a physiological reason for it, but that there are also solutions to it, is quite an empowering journey to go on, I think.
Really appreciate you sharing quite a personal anecdote, Youna, and it's an important one because it is something that happens. It's puberty in reverse. Or you remember what happened to your body, maybe you do or not, vaguely, when you went through puberty and went, oh, all this stuff's happening and all these feelings.
Yeah.
And now that's all the opposite is happening in a way.
It is. Look, I have a newfound appreciation for. I remember my mother going through menopause, and it's interesting because when I talk to her about it now, she's oh no, I breezed through menopause, it was fine. And it's like, yeah, I don't think we were living in the same household, but I have a newfound respect for what she went through, because I feel like today I am much better equipped with the information that I need and options, right? I have options as to how I tackle it, whether it be, you know, through natural lifestyle approaches, or whether I choose to, you know, go visit my GP and explore hormone replacement, or there are so many options, and we can talk about it now. There's a lot more, and this is what, you know, I think Sage is doing, and it's what women need, right? We need to be able to talk about it and share stories and work through it. We can't do that if it's kind of swept under the rug and not discussed.
And similarly, I totally agree. And similarly, the thought that there might only be one option, it's HRT or nothing, for example, or it's sleeping pills or nothing. I think it's only when we actually have the chance to talk it through, to get our thoughts out of our head and into the open, that we can really see and examine what's going on for us and how we're feeling about that. And that's where the value of coaching lies, I think, apart from anything else, feeling supported and all of the other things, is it allows you to understand what's important to you right now and help you shape your decisions going forward, and to know what those options are. I think it's so critical.
Yeah. I think, I think we live in it's a difficult time in our lives. A lot of people don't realize until they're in the throes of it that they're experiencing menopause. But I think we're very lucky in that, well, I consider myself very lucky to be able to talk to people about it, although I still am blown away by how many women don't even realize that what's going on, and the suggestion that maybe, have you thought about, might be what's going on, and the light bulb goes off, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, yes, maybe that is what's going on. And then being able to initiate a conversation around, well, you've got plenty of options, and all you need to do is explore them and make those decisions for yourself. I think is quite, it's very rewarding from my perspective, that's for sure.
You mentioned your first sign of perimenopause being that drop off in libido. I think we should call this episode Sleep, Sex and Solutions or something. With your clients, what is the most common first sign or first couple of signs that people present with when they come to you?
I think sleep is often one that comes up again and again. A lot of women in their 40s kind of say, oh, I wonder if I might be in perimenopause. And then you ask them how their sleep is. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't sleep. Right. It's like, okay. So that's why I see, sleep is so foundational to our health. And it's interesting. I studied sleep psychology 25 years ago as an undergraduate, and I fell in love with the whole science of it, but it was very much focused at the time on abnormal sleep. And there wasn't a lot of conversation at that point in time around sleep and well-being. It was always focused on very clinical, dealing with clinical issues in sleep. So sleep apnea and narcolepsy and all those kind of weird and wonderful parasomnias. And it's interesting, my life took a, diversion, and I've been and done a few things in the intervening years. But what I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years is an acknowledgement of how important sleep is to our well-being, and talking about sleep in a health context, and how we can, it's almost a non-negotiable. If your sleep is off, then there's a good chance that, you're not living your best, healthiest life, irrespective of where you are in your life cycle. So I think, everybody should probably be looking at their sleep more closely without getting paranoid about it, of course. We don't want to be obsessed with our sleep. But certainly looking at ways how we can optimize our sleep would probably, lead to better health outcomes for people in a whole range of scenarios.
Absolutely. If you think about all of the things that happen in your sleeping hours, you have that hormonal regulation, the processing of memories, all of those sorts of things, physical repair and recovery, immune regulation, all of that stuff happens when you're asleep. And I like to look at the Chinese medicine, the body clock, times of awakening relate to different parts of the body, and it's so interesting to see how all that ties together. What's the most fascinating part of sleep for you, Youna?
I just find I find circadian medicine really fascinating. And, for such a long time, we've ignored the fact that our bodies operate in cycles,
Yeah.
right? That we're not this static kind of entity that just lives in this static state of existence, that we are dynamic individuals in all aspects of our lives, and even our most fundamental, biological foundations. We're in this constant state of dynamic change and flux, and we're influenced by our surrounds. And I find that fascinating. And I find it fascinating that we have control, even though it may seem like these cycles occur independently of our free will. We do have control over them. We are able to hack them, so to speak, to a degree. And use them to optimize our performance, and I guess just having that awareness of our circadian rhythms and our other rhythms as women. We're subject to our menstrual cycle and all these seasons, I guess, that our body goes through. I find it fascinating, and I love the fact that as people become more aware of these dynamic states, that they can then make improvements, and they often don't require a lot of change to see significant improvements in quality of life, I think.
Yeah, and as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about sleep chronotype and how important it is to understand that. I mean, I like to think that going to bed at 8 o'clock is going to be helpful, but it normally means I wake up in the middle of the night and lie awake for 3 hours. Whereas if I go to bed at 10 or 10:30 and I've done some reading, I can most likely sleep through to 5:30 or 6.
Yeah.
So actually the timing of my sleep, I know that I don't need to go to bed at midnight, that I feel hungover in the morning, which is fairly unfortunate if I haven't had anything to drink and I'm feeling hungover. But that's that, you go to bed too late or too early.
Yeah.
And understanding where you fit on that spectrum is another part of that too.
That's right. And that's why, there's no hard and fast rules for when you should go to bed and how long you should sleep for, because everyone's individual. And so it's about really understanding your own body and your own what works for you, which aligns perfectly with the whole coaching methodology, about people making those decisions and making it work for them. So I mean, there are some things that people can do that universally will help, but I'd be reluctant to tell anyone that they have to be in bed by 9:30 and get up at by 6:30 in the morning in order to have good sleep, because that's just not true. Everyone's different. So
before we wrap up, I know you said that it's not a one size fits all, but is there one thing or two things that you think do make a difference for most people?
Yes, I think we've already touched on some of those. So getting out early and getting some natural sunlight. Our body clock is designed to reset every day. So if you get that natural light in the morning, that allows your body clock to reset and hopefully, set you up for the rest of the day. So I really think I really would encourage people to do that as much as is feasible. And we've touched on managing stress and the like, and reducing some of those triggers like caffeine and sugar and alcohol as much as you can, just so you don't interfere. We're not getting sugar spikes in the middle of the night, which will wake you up and the like. I mean, there's a lot of talk about sleep hygiene and that sort of thing. I think trying to maintain your sleep space, so your bedroom, as a space for sleep and well, I guess the rule is sleep and sex, right, for your bed. So trying not to work from your bed, laptop on your lap and typing away in bed is I guess it's more about sleep association. So if you want to have a positive association with sleep, then try and maintain that space for sleep. There's a bit of research around lighting and the effect of lighting. So an interesting study done by some researchers at Monash University a few years ago found that people have too much lighting in their homes at nighttime, that we tend to overlight our homes, which is having an impact on sleep, and in fact can LED lights in particular are very disruptive. So, you know, which is interesting because it's, you know, we're from a sustainability perspective, we've been told to change our light bulbs and for energy efficiency and all that kind of stuff, but they're actually having a detrimental impact on people's sleep. And the study found that the exposure in those 2 hours before bedtime to bright LED lights can actually reduce your melatonin levels by up to 50%, which makes it even harder to unwind and get to sleep. So even things like having dimmers on your lights, or just, you know, switching off the ceiling lights and having a dimmer lamp in those,
or a romantic candlelit
or
dinner.
romantic candlelit. That's right. Can have an impact on how quickly you fall asleep and your sleep routines. So just little things that don't take a lot of thinking can actually have a significant impact on how you unwind at the end of the day. So
there's a few really good points there, Youna, and I suppose people are now thinking, okay, I need to do something about my sleep. So where can people contact you for more support around sleep, especially at this time of life? Or stress?
So they can contact me. I have a website, so thriveover40.com. So if they wanted to have a look there, they can contact me for a free consultation. We can have a chat about what's going on in their lives and whether that's a good fit and we might be able to work together. And I've got a few resources on my website as well that might be useful for people. So, but yeah, I really do encourage people to prioritize their sleep. It's really one of those things that can changes your outlook on life, doesn't it? Once you've had a good night's rest.
Absolutely. And we're at a time of hormonal fluctuation going through perimenopause and menopause, and all of the things around sleep are about managing hormones. Insulin, leptin, ghrelin, all are affected by what we eat and drink, our mood, all of those sorts of things. So getting that overall hormonal balance is really important. And sleep like that.
Yeah. So
thanks, Youna. Really appreciate your time today. It's great to catch up.
Thanks, Mel.
See ya.